haven't seen me in a while. I've been super busy since Christmas. And I've been promising people this video for a while. Lots of people have asked me, how do I clean or how do I wash my cross-stitch projects when they're finished? So we're here now in my bathroom, and I'm going to show you how I wash my cross-stitch pieces. And then hopefully later this week I'll have time to film an actual floss tube update so I can show you what I've been at since Christmas. So let's turn the camera around and get started. So this is my Record Girls piece I finished at Christmas time. Anybody who follows me on Instagram would have already seen this, but this is Record Girls all finished, every last little stitch. But I've been working on her for a while and it's a little grimy and it needs to be freshened up. We are going to move to the sink, and I wash my cross stitch in lukewarm water with a little bit of some sort of mild soap. So I'm just going to use this liquid dishwash soap that you would use when you're hand washing dishes in the sink. I think in the UK they call it washing up liquid. Here we call it dish soap or dish liquid. So we're going to get the water running, not hot, just warm. Yep, that seems to be pretty good. Okay, I'm going to pull up the plug there, and I'm going to add a little bit of dish soap. Not too much, but we want a nice little sudsy bath. I've never had an issue washing a cross-stitch project in dish liquid. There we go. I did wash out my sink beforehand so that, you know, it wasn't grimy or anything like that. Nice sudsy water, it's warm, and the cross stitch is just going straight in. And I'm completely submerging it in the sink. Now I've also done this in my kitchen sink, but I'm not long home from work and we just had dinner and there's dishes in my sink and there's clean dishes drip drying, so I figured I would do this in the bathroom sink instead. So a little less room to move it around, but you kind of just squish it around, right? And get it all nice and soapy sudsy. If you're using DMC floss, this dish liquid bath is not going to hurt your floss. If you're using something else that might not be color fast, you might have an issue. So now, once I have that all submerged and it's soaking, I'm going to leave that for a little while and let it soak in that nice lukewarm bath. So it's warm, not hot. Okay? And we're just going to leave that for a little while and come back to it. Okay, so I left this sitting for about 20 minutes or so while I had a coffee. And I came back and kind of just swished it all around. The suds is all gone now, but I just swished it around with my hands basically. And I've already let some water out and added a bit of clean water. But as you can see, the water's a little bit grimy. Some of that soap suds and some of it's grime from the, you know, the fabric and the stitching. So what we're going to do now is we're going to let this water out. I'm going to drain that and let it go down the sink. And we're going to run some clear, cool water over. And I'm not wringing, I'm just squeezing the water out of this. Okay, we're going to turn on some cool water. Not ice cold because it's going to be too cold for your hands. But just some cool water. And we're going to rinse this. just to make sure we get all of the soap suds out. And we're just gonna, you know, make sure we get this all rinsed and all of the dish soap or whatever you're using for soap, baby shampoo, anything that's a mild, gentle soap, nothing harsh. So as you can see, that water's pretty clear. Most of the suds is out of the piece. This water's pretty clear. So I'm just going to finish rinsing this in the cool water, and then I'll show you the next step. So the water's all out, and all I'm doing now, look, dog hair, is I'm just squeezing. I'm just squeezing. I'm not twisting or wringing the material. I'm just squeezing it to try and get out the last bit of excess water. Okay. And then once that's done, you're left with a very wrinkly, very wet, hang on, very wrinkly, very wet project. So what I'm going to do now is I've got a really fluffy towel. This is an older towel that's still quite thick, but I know no dye is going to come out of this. You could use a white towel if you wanted to, but I'm going to lay the project out flat on this towel. So it's laid out flat on the towel. As you can see, very wrinkly, very scrunched up. It's not nice and flat. It's very uneven and bumpy. And I'm actually going to roll it up in this towel. We're going to roll it up in the towel, and we're going to continue to roll. And as we roll it into the towel, hang on, I'm trying to do this with one hand and hold the camera with the other. As we roll it into the towel, we're going to squeeze. Again, we're not wringing or twisting, we're just squeezing. And that's to get the extra water out of the fabric, and the towel will absorb it. Okay, so I'm going to roll this up and show you what I do next. There you go. It's all rolled up in the towel, and I've put pressure on it as I've been rolling it to squeeze out the extra water. And now we're going to move it to the ironing board. So I apologize for the lighting change, but we're now in my spare bedroom where I keep my ironing board. I've unrolled them from the towel. As you can see, they are very wrinkly. Very wrinkly and still quite wet. Not wringing wet, but quite wet. So I'm actually going to flip this over. I have a fluffy bath towel on here, folded in half. So there's like 2 layers of nice fluffy towel. And my Record Girls project is actually going to go, your stitching is going to get laid face down on the fluffy towel. And you're going to straighten it out as best you can. Okay, straighten it out as best you can, and we're going to lay it face down on this towel. Because as we iron the back of it with the iron, you want your stitches on the front to kind of, you know, poof up. You don't want them flattened down with the iron. So we're going to iron them against this soft, fluffy surface. And what the ironing is going to do is going to take out all of the wrinkles, and it's going to help fluff up the stitches, and we're going to iron it from the back. So yes, this is the back of my work. This is the back of this piece. My iron is set to the cotton setting and no steam, because I don't need steam because this is already quite wet. And you're just going to put it down, and you're just going to, you can see the steam coming out of it there as it's going over the as it's going over the wet fabric. Okay? And you're just going to move the iron gently and continually back and forth. Like I said, you can see the steam coming out there. That's not coming out of the iron. It's actually the water from the project evaporating as the iron is going back and forth. Okay? Now, if you have any really loose threads on the back of your project, where you carried threads, you just want to be careful that you don't hook those somehow at the front of the iron. That's all. But otherwise, you just iron and iron until it gets nice and flat and the wrinkles all come out. And you keep ironing. I typically iron till my piece is almost dry. So a lot of times when I'm doing this, I will actually do this down in my family room so I can watch a movie or some TV while I'm working on drying the piece with my iron. Okay, so I'm just going to flip this over to show you what's going on here. As you can see, oh, that's a little rebel from the end. As you can see, this is now coming out very unwrinkled. Right, very unwrinkled. And the stitches, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this in this light, but the stitches are almost, you can see them slightly raised, fluffy, and very even. Right? Like the stitches are super even. And the coverage is really good, because all those little holes that were left behind from your needle, this will actually help to fill those in. So you just keep ironing your piece face down, ironing and ironing. I can't say it any more than that, to make sure you get all of these wrinkles and crinkles out until it's almost dry, and then you can lay it flat face up to finish drying on another surface. So I'll show you what it's like once it's been completely dry. One thing I just wanted to reiterate is that because you're not using a steam and this is just pure heat, you don't want to leave your iron sitting on the project in one place. You don't want to take the chance you're going to scorch your fabric or your project, heaven forbid. So I just keep it moving in a slow and even pace, back and forth, back and forth. And I keep doing that over the entire project. Now, this is the way I do it. This is not to say this is the only way, or it's the best way, or it's the correct way. This is my way. And it has worked for me for a number of years. I have never had an issue so far, touch wood. I haven't had an issue with damaging a piece or having dye or colors run in a piece when I wash it like this. And it's because most of the time it's DMC floss that I'm using, and I've never had an issue with it bleeding. And I've washed small projects like this before I've mounted them, and I've washed large projects. Like my Canada pieces, my Canadian samplers, I washed those before I pinned them and stretched them. So this so far is coming out pretty well. I'll just roll this back over so you can see again. As you can see, okay, all of this is so nice and even now. There's no damage to any of the stitches. Everything is coming out so even. See if I can get a little bit closer with the camera for you. There you go. Everything is coming out so even. There's no needle holes, right? all of the fibers have plumped up and filled in all those little bits where you might see fabric poking through, because some people are really concerned about coverage on full coverage pieces. Right? No issues. This is on 18 count Aida, 2 strands of floss over 1 on the Aida. So I'm going to continue ironing until it's getting pretty dry now, actually. I'm going to keep this up until it's completely dry. Most of this fabric on the outside is dry. It's the stitching that's still damp. So I'm going to keep ironing this, and then I'm going to flip it over and leave it flat to cool down and finish drying overnight. Okay, so here we are. I have finished ironing, and it's still a little bit damp, but there are no wrinkles. All of the grimy looking discoloration that was on the fabric is now gone after 3 years of working on it, almost. And as you can see, all of the stitches all look pretty good, right? They're all slightly puffed up against the fabric here. You can feel them. So this is now, once it's finished drying, I'm not going to be able to get a good shot of that, but once this is finished drying, this is actually going to be ready to take to the framers to have them stretch it and mount it. Because when you do wash it and dry it, your edges on a full coverage project may be a little off. Like you can see how this corner comes down a little bit and the rest of it's pretty straight. When they stretch that to mount it at the framers, that'll take care of any of those little bitty things that kind of need to be stretched or pulled one way or pulled another way. But this is just, as I've found for myself anyway, a good way to take the grime or the average wear and tear dirt that you pick up on a piece, to carefully rinse it out and kind of bring it back to life, all the wrinkles out, and ready to take to the framers. Or if you were going to frame it yourself, you could certainly frame it yourself once it's completely dry. You never want to try and frame something that's has any dampness left in it. So there you go. Record Girls is now officially done, and I will be taking it to the framers probably when I get back from my trip to have it mounted. So I hope this video was helpful. Like I said, it's not the only way to do this. It's probably not even the best way to do it, but it is the way that I've used for all of my pieces for the last 2 decades. And I, touch wood, have not run into a problem with it. So you guys have a great day. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them for me, and I will chat with you soon. Bye.